I brought a calendar of dad jokes just in case things got awkward. Even if a bear wears socks and shoes, he still has bare feet. The eyes are one of the last parts of your body to die. They die late. My friend Tony told me not to say his name backwards. I replied, why not?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the next episode of the Burley Nathan Show. I am your host and MC, as always, Burley Nathan. Thank you all for tuning in and making our show a part of your routine. I've had a lot of people that have messaged me over the last few weeks as we've been doing this show, talking about how they listen when it comes out, and that means so much to me. And the coolest way you can say, you know what, Burley Nathan, I love your show, is to go online, anywhere where you listen to podcasts, and write a review. Write a 5-star review, and even if you have shit to say and you don't have anything nice to say, still give me a 5-star review, and then be as nasty as you want in the actual text for the review. I don't give a shit. If it gives me 5 stars, it'll boost up the algorithm, and more people will get to hear my weird nonsense. So follow us anywhere that you listen to podcasts, write a weird review if you want, and help support the show. We're going to have a great episode today. Lots to go over, awesome guest, and I'm super excited about it. So what I want to do first before we get started is, as always, talk about our sponsor, which is adamandeve.com. If you go to adamandeve.com and you use promo code BURLEY, B-U-R-L-Y, at checkout, you'll get 10 free gifts, which is like 6 free adult movies of some sort, and then 4 additional gifts on top of that, super cool things that come in the package when it gets delivered. You get that, you get free shipping, you get 50% off most items if you use promo code BURLEY, B-U-R-L-Y, at checkout. I've been using Adam and Eve for years and years and years for all of my adult purchases, and it is amazing. I think this is like my 10th year of using adamandeve.com as one of our sponsors for the many different types of podcasts that I've had over the years, and people have told me how much they love Adam and Eve and how great it is and how expedited the shipping is and how discreet it is, which I know is important to some people. So go to adamandeve.com, use promo code BURLEY, B-U-R-L-Y, at checkout, and you'll get 10 free gifts, 50% off, free shipping, discreet shipping, and so much more. So you do that, you help support my show, you help keep me on the figurative airwaves, and then I can help out others as well. We like the show to be a way for us to talk, chat, meet new awesome people, but also to promote my awesome friends who work in the same business that I do. So tonight is going to be a very interesting episode, and I brought a very good friend of mine here to chat with us tonight. And if you've ever seen me do a show or you've heard of shows that I've been working on, chances are you have heard of this person. I'd love to introduce our guest for episode 5, holy shit, episode 5 of the show is my good friend, Mary Strawberry. Hey, what's up?
Hi.
How are you tonight?
I'm good.
I am glad that you are here, and I knew getting us together to do this would be wild and fun, and we absolutely should. So how has your day been today?
To be totally honest, I was having high anxiety today.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wait, a performer having anxiety?
I know, shocking, right?
That never happens.
I'm actually quite the quiet homebody outside of my performance life. But yeah, I've decided now that I'm in my mid-30s that I'm tired of being held captive by things like anxiety, and I'm venturing out into the world of edibles.
You know, what's funny is I remember when you've started doing those, and I'm an edibles aficionado in some ways, and I mean, they help me the same way.
Yeah,
like, I was being held captive by anxiety and depression and things, and I started doing that, and it helps in most cases.
Absolutely.
So that's awesome. I'm glad that you're doing that.
Yeah.
I said earlier, I'm like, we should both do edibles and then have the wildest episode people have ever heard.
We'll do it a night that I don't need to drive home.
There you go. That's awesome. All right. So for the folks that are listening to the show that have no idea who you are, which I'm surprised, tell us about Mary Strawberry. Who are you? What do you do? And how did you get into this wacky world of the arts?
I am a variety performer. I've been really performing my whole life. But in the last almost 15 years have specifically been in the world of burlesque.
Yes.
And that's how we met each other.
Mm-hmm.
I think we met like 4-ish years ago, and then just in the last couple of years have really become close friends, which is cool. But enough about us, more about me, right?
Yeah, more about you. Tell me about you. Nobody gives a fuck about me and what I do.
Yeah, I did like kids theater growing up and was super into it. I picked my high school based on their theater program, picked my colleges based on their theater programs. I have a degree in performance studies and set design. I also have done programs like for certificates and stuff in puppetry, and I went to the Coney Island Sideshow School, and I've done clowning programs.
So just a few things.
Yeah.
Just a few little credits.
Here and there.
I love when we read your bio out loud, and I know Poppy
God, Poppy is obsessed with my bio, especially the Czech puppetry.
Czech puppetry. We always hear about that.
Yeah.
That is so... Okay, so what is Czech puppetry?
Well, specifically that I went to Prague to do a summer intensive at their theater school, DAMU, which is Divadlo Akademii Muziky Čumění. Gesundheit.
Gesundheit. Bless you.
And so it was just like a 2-week intensive learning about like the history of and styles of and methods of performing with specifically Czech marionettes and hand puppets.
Nice.
We got to go to some really cool places like the world's oldest and most well-preserved theater, which is in the southern Czech Republic, in a cute little town called Český Krumlov.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's one of those where like they turn the cranks under the stage and the set pieces judder out.
Oh, that is so cool.
It was really cool.
Oh my God, I would love to see that. That's amazing.
Apparently they still do like one performance a year just to like keep it alive.
I can imagine. That's awesome. I love when like vintage and antique art forms like that still exist.
Totally.
And people can still go see shows that do it. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that. So what has been in your education? Is there something that's like stuck out to you the most that you were learning how to do and is like a staple in your life now?
Ooh, gosh, so many things. I definitely think that one of the best life lessons that I had was my decision to go to sideshow school.
Yeah.
Specifically, like the decision to go, not necessarily the entire program itself, although it was an amazing program. I was in a place in my career where I was like thinking about what can I do to get more bookings and why not add more skills, because more skills is more things to offer. And I ended up talking with a performer who's a pretty big name about specifically sword swallowing and sideshow and stuff. And he was telling me, he writes this blog, and there had recently been this TV show about a guy that runs a sideshow out in California, and in one episode his 16-year-old daughter starts learning how to sword swallow, so he started getting this barrage of emails from 16-year-old girls wanting to learn how to sword swallow.
Naturally.
Right.
Bandwagon. The old bandwagon.
I'm sure their fathers were very pleased.
At least it was swords.
What's that?
At least with swords they wanted to swallow.
At least with swords, yeah.
Oy.
Stick to the metal.
Yeah.
And he's like, absolutely not. I will not teach any of you, not just because you're minors, but like, he was telling me he doesn't mentor at all, really. He actually hadn't had one himself, but his big thing, and I had read his blog post about it, was that you have to be willing to die for your art.
Yeah.
If you do dangerous things. If you go to the International Sword Swallowers Association website, there's like a whole page dedicated to medical accidents.
Wow.
And he later became the second sword swallower that I know that's perforated their esophagus.
Ooh, thanks.
Yeah.
And I mean, people, I think, because we've hired sword swallowers before for our shows, and I love hearing the audience going, oh, that's fake. That's totally fake. Or they'll see it at like an immersive event. They see somebody doing it. They're like, oh, it just collapses when they put it down on their tongue or something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh no, that's not it. That's not it at all.
No. Actually, side note about that, I have always, like as a little kid especially, was obsessed with like magic tricks and specifically learning magic tricks. And I think that's why I went into tech theaters, because I love figuring out how things work. And so I know a lot about magic tricks and how they work and this and that, but I never perform them because it feels too close to lying to me.
Yeah, I get it. I totally understand that. I get it.
Yeah, and we have a sideshow friend who, it'll stay between us for now, but he was like, oh my God, I feel the same way. And I was like, yes, I feel validated.
I mean, that seems right. I mean, I'm sure that most people would have that thought. That's great. So when it comes to obviously taking everything that you've learned and creating acts and creating performances around that, what is one of your favorite things that you do act-wise that you maybe have done for multiple years and continue to do?
Oh, man. I just really love being able to thrive as a comedic performer.
Right.
Comedy feels powerful to me, like to be able to get this big room of strangers to laugh with you and experience joy and sometimes think differently,
right?
Like changing the world through comedy kind of thing. Sometimes it's really sincere and sometimes it's really funny. Like when I first started doing my Sasquatch act, I would occasionally have dudes come up to me and be like, it was really weird because it was cool, but like you're wearing a beard. And I'm like, yes, process that.
Yeah, that's something to talk about with your therapist.
Yeah,
right. I mean, and
God bless therapy.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Because I mean, for those of you who don't know, Mary performs in our Night of Classic Burlesque at the Palladium Theater in St. Pete, and I've had her do variety and comedy, and I've had people at every show like are excited to see what new thing you're going to do, because you do usually 2 different acts for each one, and people are like, what the hell is coming up next? and I've had people be like, I just can't wait to see what ridiculousness is gonna come from that. If you could like drop some hints of things that you're working on that our folks should be waiting to see.
More balloons. Maybe something for those avian lovers.
Okay. All right.
And it will be just as absurd as concrete pigeons.
Perfect.
But yeah,
that's great.
I sent you a list of ideas, and you screamed back one of them specifically.
Because sometimes I'll just look at them and I'll go, okay, that looks great, and then something jumps out to me and I'm like, oh, okay. and I know you always deliver, and I'm excited to see what you come up with across the board.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to coming up with these different acts and ideas, do you take inspiration from others that you've seen? Do you completely come up with it out of the blue? Like, what do you do?
A lot of what I do is like I'll be listening to music and then the idea pops into my head from the song,
right?
And I flesh it out from there. I don't know why, but that's very often my number one inspiration is like, oh, I'm listening to this song and I got this really weird idea.
Well, it's funny because like we have that same thing when it comes to picking songs for burlesque, where we'll just be listening to like a jazz playlist or like a postmodern jukebox or even hell classic rock, and we'll be like, that would be a great burlesque, and I'll have burlesque performers that will text me because they know that's how I pick songs. And like, hey Nathan, have you ever heard this song before? I'm like, it's because you want to do an act to it, right? And they're like, no, yeah, it is 100%. So that's interesting to see that you come up with a lot of that based on the music that you hear. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's really cool. So what I want to do now is now that we know a little bit about you and your performance life, I want to ask you some rapid fire questions that you can answer truthfully. You can make up an answer. I don't care. What is the weirdest prop that you have ever had to integrate into one of your acts?
I feel like weird is so subjective
really
for
is.
me.
Okay, what would be weird to a vanilla person?
Okay, I have a large metal trash can that I've used in a couple of acts. A can of snakes.
Nice.
I use puppets occasionally in various ways, which is always fun.
Okay. I mean, whenever a puppet pops out, you never know what's going to happen, especially in a burlesque style environment.
Oh, I remembered something. So I was on one of my tours years ago out in Seattle, and this was still to this day like one of my favorite shows that I've ever done. I think it was called Wheel of Teas, and it was a live polka band. Improv show.
That's a lot of things. Improv polka.
Right, and they had a big wheel that you spin to get your song and your prop. And because I was the like visiting guest performer, I went last, and the producer was like, "Oh, I know exactly what prop and song I want you to use, or at least what song I want you to use. And then
Sure.
I got 2 props because I was the guest. But it's okay because I had been doing improv shows back home, and I friggin' love doing improv burlesque. It's so much fun.
So good.
So they gave me Start Wearing Purple,
Okay.
played by a live polka band.
Naturally.
I'm in this like pop art Minnie Mouse kind of get up, and they give me an audience member as a prop
Oh, nice.
and Hulk fists.
Okay. The possibilities are endless.
Right.
That's
so yeah, I had to figure out how to do a burlesque act with all of those elements, and it was so much fun.
That's great. If anybody's going to do that, that is you. If you said to me, hey, so I want to integrate Hulk hands, and I'd be like, all right, fine. Just whatever you want to do. I'm sure it's going to be great.
I trust you.
I trust you. So I've never asked a performer this question. I've been saving it for you. If your persona or your acts came with a disclaimer or a warning label, what would it say?
Oh gosh. May change your mind about clowns.
Now, would that be in a scary way? Is it going to give them confused boner way?
Yes.
Or,
I'm not a scary clowns person. I'm a funny, silly, oh God, why does that make me feel things in my pants?
and that's why the audience is like, so what's Mary doing next?
Yeah, exactly.
You've probably gotten one guy or girl or whoever come to the show and they're like, their search history that night changes everything. Like
Absolutely.
Their algorithm has completely changed. What is a
I'm
blooper?
the Technicolor in their life.
Tell me something that has happened on stage, maybe a mishap or something that has, like, you've played off and just used it as a part of the act.
I mean, yeah, live performance, you have to yes and shit all the time.
Oh, yeah.
There's like the standard, the music won't play, so I'm gonna make up a song until it does. Or like I've had my shoe like disintegrate off my foot once about a year ago.
Nice.
And I was also hosting that show, so I was like, who saw my shoe fall apart? I see you seeing it. Yeah. We're just gonna keep going. The first time my mom saw me do burlesque, I was doing my Sasquatch act, and she and my sister were sitting like way in the back of the room. And this is the closest I've ever gotten to a popped pasty, knocking on wood. Mm-hmm. My boob came out the side of my fur bra.
Okay.
And I was like, oh God, this is my mom's first look at my new career. Yeah. What's she gonna think? And she comes up to me afterwards and she goes, your face was just so captivating. And I'm like, oh, thank God she wasn't looking any lower.
Yeah, she kept the eye contact. She's like, I can't see anything accidentally.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to, and I also ask performers this as well, is like, because you said your mom's seen it, like when it comes to family seeing these shows, because you're not necessarily going as, you know, I don't necessarily want to say sexy, but like, it's not as, because you're doing variety and comedy, it's not just like a bump and grind routine and calling it a day. Have you ever had any issues with family seeing it or people close to you that have been like kind of lukewarm about it? Or like what's been the general reception?
My mom, it took her a while to like get excited about it, but she was like, I want you to do what makes you happy as long as it's safe. Which is why I was like open with her about when I worked at a strip club and things like that.
Sure.
My dad is kind of religious, so we just like don't talk about it. But at this point, I know he knows.
Right.
But also like I'm old enough to not care what my parents think of what makes me happy and pays my bills.
Right. If you're doing what you're doing and you're doing it and it's
not hurting anybody.
Not hurting anybody and it's not illegal. I mean,
yeah.
These days, we have to be very careful with that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a whole other subject.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, there's like a really cute story of the first time my mom and her wife saw me perform. But as far as this is a great story. My 8th grade boyfriend, whose wedding I just went back home to go to with my best friend, which was super fun. People are like, wait, you're going to your 8th grade boy? How many? 20 years ago?
Yeah.
is that creepy, or have you like stayed in contact? Or so the story is, about 8 years ago, I was performing at one of my regular venues back home, and
when you say back home is
Atlanta.
Nice.
Yeah, my hometown, ATL, hold it down. People down here like to torture me by saying Hotlanta, and I'm like, you make me tired.
Oh, I know. I as you know, I grew up in Georgia and Atlanta, actually in the kind of almost the same area that you did.
Yeah.
And people would say that a ton. I'm like, Hotlanta, you live in gross Florida. Go fuck off.
Yeah, it's like it's not 1992 anymore.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, so about 8 years ago, I'm performing at a regular venue, the Red Light Cafe, and it's like a shotgun venue where it's like long and skinny, and the stage is by the front door, and the dressing rooms are way in the back above the kitchen.
Naturally.
Yeah, so I'm like walking from the stage towards the dressing room, and this tree of a man, like well over 6 feet tall, steps in front of me and says my government name.
Oh, no.
And I like ball up. I'm like, who sent you?
That's a weird thing to happen, even not in a burlesque venue.
Right.
If somebody just popped out and goes, Nathan, I'm like, no, get
You
back.
stop right there.
Yeah. That's wild.
But yeah, so it ended up being my 8th grade boyfriend who was there. I thought he was with a bachelor party, but he recently corrected me that it was a birthday party. And we like exchanged numbers and went out to dinner a few days later and have become adult friends since then. And now he's
Nice.
married, and it's lovely.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And I'm out of the closet.
So this is the last question I'm going to ask, more on the performance side. If you could create an act based on any breakfast food, what would it be?
Oh.
Or like a breakfast dish?
Oh. Wow, why is that such a hard question?
All the options. I'm just thinking of the
Right.
Denny's menu.
I don't know, fruit salad?
Fruit salad. I could see that being, a very gay positive act.
Yeah, I end up having a lot of animal-themed acts.
Sure.
So food-themed isn't that far off. I have a birthday cake act, though.
Yeah?
Yeah. It's very messy.
I've seen people who will do like cake sitting, and like they'll hell, you did glass walking in one of the last shows too.
I almost baby birded a peanut butter and jelly sandwich into the VIP during that act. Yeah.
Oh man, that venue has opera, and they have ballet, and they have you baby birding a PB&J into the front. That's amazing. All right, so now that we know a little bit more about you on the performance side and like stories back end there, now we're going to dig a little bit deeper into you as a person.
Oh.
Okay, so we're gonna get some deep questions here. Deep as a puddle, probably. What is the biggest?
Test my boundaries.
What is the biggest risk that you've taken in your life, and has it paid off?
I think the easy answer is moving to St. Petersburg blind 5 years ago.
What inspired you to move to this area?
I needed to get out of my hometown, and I wanted to go somewhere that was warm, gay, artsy, dog-friendly, and preferably near water.
So that's St. Pete, basically.
Yeah, so basically St. Pete.
Yeah.
I also have family in Sarasota, so that it was like less scary.
Sure.
Because I've spent the last 25 Christmases in Sarasota, but I had never been to St. Pete outside of like visiting someone at Rollins College once when I was a teenager. Or not Rollins, Eckerd.
Nice.
But yeah, so I think that I haven't looked back.
Good.
Even through like the COVID pandemic, I still was like, I have a job in the arts, or at least arts tangential for now. And the burlesque community here is really incredible. It's very professional, and that's been such a breath of fresh air to me. And it's also nice to have such a large percentage of the local community be very supportive of each other. That's one of the things that I really enjoy is like, yes, we're professional and everything, but we're also like, oh my God, you're amazing. No, you're amazing. I want to work with you again. Yes. Everything's awesome.
I see that. The gassing up of people in this community, it's great. And a part of me is like, oh, that's amazing. And a part of me is like, okay, what's their angle here? Like this is too nice, and I feel a little like dirty because I'm like, oh, a lot of people think I'm cool. A lot of people think you're cool. I love it, and like because of the fact,
is it because I'm a producer, or do you actually think I'm cool?
I mean, you said it. I get people like
the quiet part out loud.
The intrusive thoughts won.
They do sometimes.
And I mean, granted, if you are a performer that's listening to this that likes to gas people up just to like get ahead, I mean, I can't hate you for that because like that's this business though.
Yeah.
The old adage like you got to sleep with somebody to get ahead. I mean, you shouldn't have to. And I've never had to sleep with anybody to get ahead. And I've never slept with anybody so they could get
wait, I thought it was sleep with somebody to get head.
I mean, yeah. I mean, that is technically a thing you could do. You can get ahead with some head.
Like I like to say, the jokes don't get any better.
We're just going to do nothing but head jokes tonight. Just every head pun we can think of. But
yeah, definitely not sending this link to my father. Good old Papa Barry.
That'll be the title of this episode, Godhead. All right, the next question that I have, it is, what is a talent or skill that you wish you had?
I wish I was more confident in singing.
Singing? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because I like to do it for fun sometimes, but I've never had the guts to do it publicly, at least not since grade school. I really love watching other people do aerial because it's something that I can't do because of my disabilities. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the things that I've learned to just be like, I really appreciate other people's talents.
Yeah. Oh, I see that. I mean,
yeah.
I'm not a dancer, and whenever I see people dance, I'm like, that's cool. That won't ever be me, but that's cool. All right, so singing would be your skill that you wish. And you sang with me, and we did...
Technically, I have sang as Jerry Lewis.
Which was hilarious. And we will be singing again soon together in April, which we need to work on.
Yeah.
Which we need to work on together.
Something's going to happen.
Something will happen, and it will be great. And it will integrate puppets. It's going to be quite an absolute fun time.
I have been looking around my house to see which puppets I'm going to cast in which role for this.
I love that you said who. Because that's how you know that you're a puppet person. Because you're not just like, oh, these puppets. You're like, I wonder who of these people I'm going to bring with me. I love that.
All my alternate personalities.
All of them. Okay, so what is a misconception that people have about you, and why do you think it exists?
Oh.
Yeah, we're going deep.
Oh, man.
Let's talk about what people think about us.
What are you insecure about? All I can think about, I mean, because I'm always like at work and stuff. If I hear a rumor about someone, I'm the person that goes to that person and is like, hey, I heard this about you. And they're like, the fuck? I'm like, cool. Good to know that's not true.
You're the office fact checker.
Yeah, basically. I've also been cast as the person who stands up for everybody no matter what. So my SJW training is intact.
Right.
The thing that always like punches me in the gut with that idea is some of the drama that I experienced before I moved here, and I tried to have a professional conversation about something very unprofessional that happened backstage at a show, and someone who was new came into the conversation and was like, fuck you, that's my friend, and I'm gonna start this rumor that you were bad-mouthing her. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I'm trying to talk about safety.
Right. Like, what you were doing was not a bad thing. Yeah.
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 So, and please don't put words in my mouth.
Right.
So that's always been like really disappointing that people think that I'm like a mean person. And I mean, I'm a redheaded Scorpio, but so like if you cross me, we're fucking done.
Yeah.
But I always, like people until they prove that I shouldn't. Yeah. So
I mean, that's a way to do things. I mean, that's what I do. You know, I try my best to be as amicable and awesome with people as I possibly can. I mean, I've known you for a long time. I hope to never cross you.
No.
But I know that
I don't think you've even come close yet, so we're good.
Good. Thank God. It's the night is young.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Any of these questions, you're going to be
Just
like, you know
wait.
what? Remember how I said 4.5 minutes ago you haven't reached that level? Guess what? Here the fuck you are. All right, so here's another one that because you were talking earlier that you said you were dealing with some anxiety earlier today.
Yeah.
When it comes to prioritization of mental health and mental well-being, aside from now edibles and whatnot, what do you do as a performer and somebody who works in the arts to like diffuse and to have you time? What's your go-to?
Yeah, this is a really important thing to figure out, and it's also a process as a professional performer, because, we talk about things like con crash and the adrenaline and highs that you get from shows and the potential lows afterwards. I like to have quiet time, like at home, whenever I finish a show, we'll say, if we don't like go out afterwards, like you and Poppy were talking about.
Yeah.
So much fun. I'll go home and I'll like do bookkeeping stuff if I need to, and put on something, like my show a couple days ago, I put on Taylor Tomlinson's new Netflix special.
Nice.
While I like sat and did my bookkeeping and hung out with my dog. I usually make something, often French fries.
Nice.
Yeah, and just like decompress afterwards. And it's important to do things like maintain stretching so that I don't feel like I'm not prepared for when I do perform on stage. And I go to therapy, because therapy is fucking awesome.
I don't think there's a single person that I've had on the show so far that doesn't go to therapy, which, including myself, like, it's great to have that, because I think everybody should. I mean, I know, and also, it's also saying, well, some people can't afford it, and I understand that, and I know that there's programs and things out there that can help, but even if it's just finding somebody that you trust to have conversations with and just say, hey, and I'd love to talk, or I'd love to just can you be an ear for a little while? It's always good to have somebody to talk to.
Yeah. If accessibility is an issue, find that trusted friend.
Exactly.
Because there are things that it's not appropriate to talk about backstage.
That is true. That is true. I've actually been in shows before where like a good friend will trauma dump like the moment before I go out on stage.
Yeah.
That used to happen a lot when I would do musical theater. As when you're in the wings just waiting to go on stage, you're just like standing there. And at one point, I actually had a friend tell me before that I walked out on stage, they're like, hey, by the way, I just vomited like 5 times in the bathroom before.
No.
And then I went, I'm so sorry. And I go out on stage and I'm like, oh my God, I just got that. But like, I've heard some crazy stories because people just like, they just got to get it off their chest. And I'm like, if it's right before you make an entrance because you just want to clear that out before you're done, like, okay, cool. Whatever you got to do.
This is an interesting process.
Yeah, this is the weirdest production of Into the Woods I've ever been in. So the next question that I have for you is, was there ever a time in your life when you have had to make a difficult ethical decision, either to advance yourself or to stand up for someone else?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm going to go a little vague on this one.
Sure.
Because there's some things I don't want to step in right now.
Of course.
But yeah, like I mentioned earlier, I'm definitely someone who can get in a mood where I'm like, no, you're being a bully and I don't suffer bullies. I don't suffer tailgaters. I consider them bullies.
There you go. Done.
And I've had a couple of talking tos at my day job where I went a little too hard on like, no, this is unjust.
I mean, it happens. It happens when something.
But I haven't been fired. They're like, I understand.
And you're
I
right.
respect that you're standing up for people, but this is a large corporation.
Right. I totally get that. And sometimes you're like, whatever just happened, you can't let it go.
Yeah.
And you can't let it stand.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Because I know you as the kind of person that will make sure that things are just, that people are respected, and that if somebody does something shitty, they get called out for it.
Yeah.
Which in this business, I wish there was a bit more of. Now,
because why the fuck are we voting on who gets rights or not?
Right. Exactly. Like, it's just...
Anyway.
Florida. Hello, Florida.
Hey.
So here's another question, and I actually asked this to Poppy when she was on the first episode. So let's just say somebody comes up to you after a show and goes, I didn't like that. I didn't like what you did. I didn't like your acts. I didn't like this, or I didn't like something. How do you, as a professional performer that's been doing this for lots of years, how do you handle criticism and people maybe not necessarily liking what you do?
I've gotten to the point where my attitude is basically, okay, that's your choice. Mm-hmm. My aunt loves that I've introduced this idea of choices to her.
Yep.
She'll get wound up about something that someone else did. I'll be like, choices. And she's like, you're right. Yeah, because it's very, very vulnerable to put your art out there.
Oh, yeah.
It can be hard, especially with a new act, to be like, I don't know how this is going to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you never know until you do it.
Yeah.
It's like when comedians go to open mic nights to try out
new
things.
material. Yeah.
And sometimes with our business, we don't have necessarily a burlesque open mic.
Yeah.
I mean, I know some places do, but we don't know until we know.
Yeah. Yeah. You can workshop it with friends and stuff,
right.
But there's also a level of professionalism that comes into experience and such. There are some classes, and I've been toying around the idea of doing my own class series, incorporating the classes that I already teach in that. So look for that coming up.
Ooh.
Shameless self-promotion.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, trust me, we have no shame on this show.
Absolutely.
Promote every fucking thing you got.
Yeah.
That's great.
Support local artists.
Right. So when it comes to the criticism time, you're just you know what? Being a variety performer...
You're not gonna please everyone.
Precisely. And I've had that before lots of times where people be like, I didn't like the show, but I liked you, or when I did Sweeney Todd. I did Sweeney Todd back in 2016, 15, whatever. I would
love to do that show someday.
I would love to do it. I played what did I play? I played Beetle Bamford, and I
want to play Lucy.
That would be so much fun. But during the show, I actually. At one point, the character grabs the bird out of Joanna's cage and then kills it on stage. And I had a lady who was furious with me after the show. How could you? I'm like...
The character did it, not me.
Stephen Sondheim and Hugh Wheeler said to do it,
right?
not me. I didn't want to. But
that wasn't in the movie.
The problem was with that show when I did it, the bird that they gave us, you would have... Okay, if you would have seen this, you would have been the person... cackling in the background. I could already hear your voice. So I was on stage. I pulled the bird out of the cage, and I'm supposed to crack its neck and say it'll be you next, friend, to the Anthony character. And so I grabbed it, and we had this little paper mache bird that I would usually just go under my breath to show that I cracked it.
Yeah.
I did that, but I was a little overzealous that night. And I completely destroyed the paper mache bird.
Oh no!
And my thumb went through it.
Oh!
And the theater that I was doing it in, you've seen it. It's 150 seats, 180 seats, whatever.
I thought you were gonna say years old.
That too. This theater is 4,000 years old, being held up by toothpicks and tape. No, they're great. If they're listening, which they probably are, you guys are great. Anyway, so that was the performance that night, and they're like, "What you did really upset me," and I'm like, "I'm sorry, I'm not really that person." That's how it was when I did Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
I had kids afraid to come up to me afterwards, and I'm like, I'm not really him. It doesn't happen. So criticism is interesting. I mean, I've had people call me every name in the book after a show, make comments on my weight.
Yeah.
I think when you work in this business, you just have to eventually develop that thick skin.
Yeah, because when your body is your canvas, essentially, then it's going to come with criticism.
Right. And it's how we adapt from that. Because I've seen people who will get criticism who will maybe hear that from one person or two different people, and they'll change their entire persona because one person didn't like it. I'm like, for every one that didn't like it, you probably have hundreds that do.
Yeah.
So, like, if you get criticism as a performer, just, take it as a learning opportunity and move on.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that there are people out there that are like, why the fuck are you making a puppet strip on stage? And I took that act to the Burlesque Hall of Fame last year.
Right. Like, exactly. The things that you don't necessarily think might be hits will. And same thing with puppets. Avenue Q beat Wicked for Best Musical of the Year, 2004
It's so
Tony Awards.
good.
Fucking love Avenue Q. All right. And the next question that I have for you, because we're going deep still. This will be one of the last deep questions we have. Can you describe a time in your life where you felt completely out of your comfort zone, and how did you adapt to it?
Every day.
Every day. Yeah. Welcome to just existing in 2024.
Right. Oh my God. Yeah, therapy helps. I'm dealing with, I've been working through for a few years some pretty deep trauma from past relationships and experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And learning how to enjoy someone else's company in an intimate way. And having that fight, flight, or freeze response.
Right.
And working through that with my therapist. And I had kind of a big breakthrough last week about it, and have been seeing this really lovely woman for a month now.
Hell yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a good way to overcome.
Yeah. So between like having the experience with her and talking to my therapist about it and going back and forth, and also like being super vulnerable and honest with each other, and like she tests my boundaries in the most respectful ways and takes no for an answer.
Okay, that's good.
So it's this, I mean, I know I'm in the new relationship energy phase, but
sure.
It's also like really exciting to feel like I'm in a place where I'm building trust with someone.
Oh yeah.
And
that's
not
a great
just
feeling.
Putting on rose-colored glasses or falling into old patterns, or saying, nope, this makes me scared, I'm not going to do it at all.
I mean, I can imagine traumas do that to people.
Absolutely.
It makes you apprehensive when somebody says you're great, or somebody says I love you, or somebody says that they care about you. You're like, really?
Yeah.
What's the catch?
Or touches you in a specific way.
Right. But hey, I'm glad that that's something that you are, because I know how excited you are, and I have met her, and she's great, and it's all good stuff. So I am so happy for you. That's awesome. All right, so
not allowing myself to think about U-Hauls.
I'm sure people have seen the memes, the lesbians on the second date, U-Haul, front yard.
Was it you that was telling me about the one of the like car hauler with all the U-Hauls on it, and it said polyamorous lesbian?
It's a polyamorous lesbian convention.
It's so good.
Yeah, immediate first thought. I can't look at a U-Haul now without going, who's driving? Probably the coolest lesbian with the largest ring of keys you'll ever see.
See if you recognize one of the Tampa Bays.
Oh boy, I remember when that. Oh,
that show was a choice.
It sure was. I think there were some people in the biz that were affiliated with that show. I don't know. I remember hearing about it when it was happening. Oy vey. All right, so now that we've gone deep, now we're going to go superfluous. I'm just going to ask you some rapid fire questions, and I want you to just answer them immediately, okay? And if you make them up, I don't care. Jessica made one up when she was on the show and had no reason to make it up. All right, ready? Here we go. Let me clear my throat. Have a drink. It's not alcoholic tonight. All right. Favorite color?
Blue.
Favorite season?
Fall.
Okay. Favorite food?
Pizza, because if you put enough toppings, it's a well-balanced meal.
That's what we keep telling ourselves. And
I am an adult, and this is my truth.
If money was not an object, and you could jump on a plane tomorrow and go anywhere in the world for a week, where would it be? Everywhere, all at once.
Everywhere. Yeah, I've always been that person who, like, I use my spare money on travel, because the more I travel, the smaller the world seems, and I love learning about other places and people and cultures.
It's great.
Everywhere.
Everywhere. That's a good answer. If you could go to any era and you could maybe live there for a week or two, what would that era be?
Ooh. 1940s or
40s?
Victorian area.
Okay.
The Victorians were so kinky.
Oh. There's the reasoning. I mean, I've seen some like paintings and I'm like, wow, if that's really what used to go on, hell yeah. That's great. I mean, what else were you going to do in those days? You didn't have phones. It's just like, we're just going to fuck all the time.
Yeah.
Like, why
Let's
not?
make up some weird stories and read them to each other.
And we're all going to wear masks with giant noses. It's going to be the wildest parties you've ever seen. What is your favorite favorite animal?
Dogs. And otters.
Dogs and otters.
And my middle school nickname was Super Cow.
Super cow?
Like from the cartoon, Super Cow, al rescate.
Oh my God. Oh Lord. Nostalgia. Okay, so
that dates me.
What's your favorite thing to binge on TV?
Oh, my go-to shows are like Gilmore Girls and BoJack Horseman.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Has there ever been like a show or like a fandom where you're like, I have to make an act to that?
Oh my God, I feel like I'm drawing a blank right now.
Because I know there's a lot of people
Definitely.
that will do like cosplay stuff and they'll do like TV show based acts and things.
Yeah, I've never been super into the cosplay stuff. Oh, I have a Tina Belcher act.
Oh,
that
that's
I think
right.
is very, very fun.
That's fun. I can imagine that lends itself to be something crazy.
Yeah, and I built a hamburger, like sandwich board style hamburger costume.
Nice.
To do beef squatch as well. So
delightful.
Bob's Burgers.
Okay, so the last question that I'm going to ask on this end is, and I love to get this from performers who have been doing this for a long time, and I know a lot of newbies and people that are getting into the business do listen to this show. What is a bit of advice that you would give to any new performer? It doesn't matter if it's burlesque, theater, whatever. Do you have a piece of universal advice for people in this business?
Yeah, my go-to advice for a long time has been one part of it is like, I know that you're new and super excited and you just want to take anything you can get, but you also have to recognize that some of us, that like this is our job.
Right.
This is how we pay our bills. So make sure that in your eagerness to accept gigs, you're not undercutting people.
There you go.
And then the other is, I often get asked, how do I start to get into burlesque? And it's like, just go to shows and talk to people and offer to help, like run door or kitten for a show. Show us that you're willing to learn and be a part of the community, and don't just expect to be a headliner your second week.
I've seen and I've spoken with people who are like, I just want to immediately get gigs. And I'm like, I've been doing this. I've been in burlesque for 8 years, and now I'm starting to get asked.
Yeah.
Like, I've had to submit for things, and I've had to run my own shit for so long. It's only been this last year where I've been getting people like, hey, can you come and do this, or host this, or do that? It takes a while, especially in this business where there's so much competition.
Absolutely.
I do have an unfair advantage, obviously, but being a penis haver. So, like, and I run my own shows 95% of the time, so like I also don't put myself in my shows either, and if I am in my shows, I'm playing piano for it. Or I did try to host a show recently that I was in, and that was a giant mistake, the biggest one we've ever done, and I'm like, I should host this, and I'm like, one song in, I'm like, nope, not doing that. Hey Poppy, right in the middle of a show, you're taking over.
Yeah.
But like it's a crawl, walk, run sort of thing to do in this business.
Yeah.
And I think more people should know that.
Before I moved here, I was a set designer for 10 years. And whenever I started at a new theater, I would go in with the mindset of, until I know how they do things here, I don't know anything.
Right.
Because that's that's a really easy way to step on people's toes on day one of a new job, is to like come in like a bull and say, all right, I'm taking over and this and this and this, and why is that over there? Well, it's been over there for 10 years. You just came in today.
Yeah. Oh, I've seen that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be humble and learn.
Humble, yeah.
It's funny that you mention that, because the show that I hosted last week, you were there. I had 3 people come up to me after the show asking me how to get into burlesque.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I'm probably not the person you should ask, but like I can refer you to other people who can put you in shows and who can get you started. But yeah, I think the best advice is just to go see shows. And even still, I mean, I've been in this for a long time. So I still go see stuff.
Yeah.
To not only scout, but like to see how the other troops do it. Like when we went to go see burlesque in New Orleans, which might be now my favorite place to see burlesque.
I love going to New Orleans because there's always gigs to be had.
Oh, yes. And one of my goals...
And to see.
One of my goals in the next couple of years is to either be in a show or host one in New Orleans. And I'm hoping that I can do that. But I've seen it in New York, New Orleans, Savannah, like all different awesome places. And when I will actually say, I didn't steal it from them, but like when I went to New Orleans, that's where Taryn and I came up with the idea for the Night of Classic Burlesque shows. Because we saw what they were doing there. And I was like, we could do our own spin on that here and bring variety into it. And what's interesting in burlesque is, and I've actually had some criticisms from some local people saying that our shows are not burlesque.
They're more old school burlesque.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're going for, where our shows are burlesque act, song, scene, burlesque.
Our shows are like pre-Gentleman's Club era burlesque shows.
Right. And not to say that there's a single thing wrong with the standard, performing to canned music or any of that. Like, absolutely. That is still valid as well.
Yeah.
And, we tried to do the more vaudevillian style, which is why we brought you in to do this comedy stuff. And we have, your jokey MC, we write original songs. Like, that's what we tried to specialize in. And I think, it's going pretty well. Yeah,
this show has found its niche in the local scene.
And speaking of shows that find a niche, I know you have a monthly series and a quarterly series. Tell me about it.
I do. So I have been running Burlesque Night for a year and a half now. We recently had a venue change. It's now at Aspirations Winery in Clearwater. Everyone always asks me, where's that? It's, 19 and Drew.
19 and Drew. Yep, absolutely.
So very accessible for anyone in the Bay Area, which feels like a venue upgrade. It's, it's a much bigger space. It's a very different style of space. And we also have so much that we're planning to continue improving that space.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, Burlesque Night is every month. It's been every third Saturday for a long time. There's a possibility it will become a Sunday brunch show, so look out for that. Follow me everywhere, The Mary Strawberry, on all platforms, and my website is themarystrawberry.com.
Oh yeah,
all platforms, awesome. Including Venmo.
All those platforms. All of the ways to get the money in. I appreciate when folks create like series shows and shows that are recurring, because it builds an audience up.
Yeah.
And the fact that you bring in people from all over the state and beyond, which is great, and a good variety of folks, so they'll always see something different. And that's one thing that I strive for in any show that I help work on, is there better be variety. Like, not to dog on the groups that have their set troupe. That's great. That's if it works for you.
Work it.
Phenomenal. Yeah. If it works for your area, does not work for me. I have a core few people that are in our shows. You're one of them, and and then we circulate and bring in different people to just keep the variety moving, and that works for us.
Keep it new and interesting.
That's what you do.
I also often give space to greener performers.
Right.
So long as they send me a good application and they act professionally and such. So it's a great, I'm open to veterans and new people, and it's super fun to find people that you really mesh well with and try different styles. Like my show tends to lean comedic because that's my style.
Sure.
But this weekend we did a classic style show because that's the style of the performers that I had hired for this month. Mm-hmm. So that was almost a fun challenge for me in the way of doing something that's not my standard.
Sure. Yeah, that's great. I mean, it's still kind of going out of the comfort zone, and I'm sure the audience loved it. I saw the photos and videos and people reaching out afterwards, so that was awesome. I actually spoke with both of the performers who were in the show, and they had such a great time.
Oh, they were such sweethearts.
I loved both of them. That was Amethyst and Miss Naughty Dottie.
Yeah.
Saw both of them last week. Miss Naughty Dottie was at
Today is Amethyst's birthday.
That is right, and I know that she listens. So happy birthday, Amethyst Star! You are a great friend of the show. I had everyone
sing her happy birthday at curtain call.
Nice. Did you? By the way, speaking of singing happy birthday, were you as shocked as I was? Because I know you were at the show on Wednesday of last week that I hosted. I got the audience to sing happy birthday to Karma Candlewick, and I said do it with harmonies, and they did.
It was so good.
And they did. It was wild. I tried. I was like, all right, we're going to sing happy birthday to Karma. She was one of the co-producers of the show. And it's a
room full of drunk people at a comedy club, so it's probably going to sound like trash. Wait, what?
Yeah. And I was like, the hell? So I messaged Poppy, the gal who hosts our shows, and I said, I would love to do an audience singing thing. So I followed
singing challenge.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, we should get the audience to sing and see what happens. But I was like, let's sing it with harmonies. And then there was like 2.5, 3-part harmony. I was like, all right, these people got this. These people got this. You never know what's going to happen when you just throw something out to an audience and hope they react well. All right. Well, Mary, thank you so much for being here. Once again, let everybody know how they can follow you.
Yes, you can find me on all platforms, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, etc. at The Mary Strawberry. My website is also themarystrawberry.com. You can find tickets for all our shows at Aspirations Winery at strawberry.ndtheatricals.com, as Nathan is kind of my business partner as of this year, which is very exciting. I also have the same tag on all of the payment platforms if you would like to tip me.
Yes, you can absolutely give tips. Watch and say, make sure you say, I listened to you on the Burley Nathan show. Here's $500 because you're so awesome. And there it is. All right.
Or if you didn't like it, send me $20 and I will leave you alone, as I say when I tell the rules at the beginning of shows.
I love, there's a meme that I've seen every once in a while that's like, pay me $8,000 and I will shut up for life. Yeah. Like, I will never bother you again. Just send me $5,000 and I will never speak.
You will wonder if I'm dead.
Yeah, I'm as good as dead for $5,000. All right, Mary. Well, thank you so much for being here. And I look forward to all of our upcoming shows and the great magic that we are going to produce. So thank you for being here.
Thanks, buddy. Lots of adventures to come.
Absolutely. All right, folks. Well, thank you so much for listening to episode 5 of The Burley Nathan Show. Once again, you can follow me on all of the platforms, Instagram, TikTok, Grindr, Tinder, all of those. No, just kidding. You can find me there. I'm not telling you my handles. But anyway, Instagram at Burley Nathan, TikTok at Burley Nathan. Follow me on all of those platforms. I go live sometimes if I'm playing a piano bar gig, or I'll do a live at a show or whatever. So follow me there. You can also hear about all of our upcoming guests on The Burley Nathan Show. Don't forget, adamandeve.com. I know I spoke about it earlier. Adamandeve.com is one of the sponsors for this show. If you go to adamandeve.com, fill up your cart with all of the coolest adult things that you could possibly think of, whether it be dildos or lube or things that you just want to spice up your at-home sex life. You can do so, and you can get an awesome deal. 50% off most items, 10 free gifts, free shipping if you use the promo code BURLEY. BURLY. I wonder why that's the code. Use promo code BURLEY at checkout, and you'll get all of those awesome perks, and you will get to support the show at the exact same time. As I said on the last episode, if you go on adamandeve.com and you purchase anything, and you use the promo code BURLEY, BURLY, take a screenshot of it, and then send it to me at Burley Nathan on Instagram and TikTok, and I will do a shout out for you live on the air. I might even write you a little jingle, a little thank you song for buying adult gifts on my behalf. So do that, and I'll send you some cool Burley Nathan swag, and maybe even give you free tickets to a show. Just go to adamandeve.com, use promo code Burley at checkout, and buy yourself some cool things. I did so for Valentine's Day. I spent quite a lot of money there. I used my own promo code because I am that guy. And so absolutely go do that. adamandeve.com. Use promo code Burley. Finally, once again, follow us on all the platforms that you listen to podcasts. We're on Apple Music. We're on Spotify, Amazon Music. We're on... Did I already say Spotify? If I did, Spotify. Again, love it. listen to us there. We're on Samsung Podcast. If you literally go to your Alexa and say, Alexa, play the Burley Nathan Show, it will do that. So if you're anywhere near an Alexa right now, hey, Alexa, play the Burley Nathan Show. Maybe it'll work. Literally, I think mine just did. Sorry, Alexa, off. Alexa, off. Sorry, didn't actually mean to do that in real life. So follow us there and leave some reviews for the show. We would love to hear from you. If you have any suggestions of people that you want to hear on the show, you can send it over to me as well at Burley Nathan. We have some great guests coming up for our next episodes. Episode 6 will be featuring the one and only Debbie Diablo. You should definitely listen to that episode. There'll be some truths we'll be having on that episode, which will be great. And a lot of amazing performers from all over the world, truthfully, will be on this show. So tune in, subscribe. If you subscribe, put on the notification so you can be updated whenever a new episode drops, which I was going to do every Friday. Now I'm just like, if I've recorded it and I've edited it, I'm just going to release it. So just put your notifications on so you find out anytime a new show drops. All right, folks, this is Burley Nathan. Thank you once again to Mary Strawberry for being here on the show. And with that, I say good night.